Well, after what has been a pretty awful 24 hours, there's been some positive news actually for Rangers tonight. We'll get onto that shortly. There's also a news of a player departing the club, and add to that as well. Focus moving towards Sunday's game against Celtic, which is a huge must-win game. A game we cannot afford to do anything other than get 3 points in and win. Look, I even think a draw is not acceptable on Sunday. It has to be the full 3 points. Well, let's start off with some positive news for Rangers, and that obviously is in reference to the Europa League. Now, with Rangers losing to PSV Eindhoven in pretty humiliating fashion, guys, you know what? Today's been a pretty crappy day. Today's been a day where I felt deflated all day, guys. Pretty much all went down all day because of that result. And, you know, it's weird, isn't it, how one club can get you so down and one set of results or a result can get you so down. But I think a lot of people underestimate what the football team means to us and what, as fans, what we go through, you know, on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis with our team and how much the team means to us. You know, I think I said earlier on a podcast that I spoke on, a kind of like it's second to only to your family, isn't it? In terms of, you know, being part of your life, and sometimes even your partners don't understand. But guys, it's got me down today. Got to admit it. Anyway, let's talk about some positive things. Rangers have been handed a major boost ahead of Friday's Europa League draw. Now, we dropped obviously into the Europa League, unfortunately, which, you know, has had a knock-on effect. It means that we give Celtic £30 million because the Champions League hasn't got to be divided between two teams now. It goes solely to them. So we've given them 30 million. I'm sure they're very grateful for that, but a huge error on Rangers' behalf. And Champions League revenue is, you know, I think it's at least 3 to 4 times what Europa League revenue is. So huge revenue hit for the club. It'd be interesting to know what James Bisgrove's opinion on that is. Not to mention, obviously, the humiliating defeat. Now, in terms of the Europa League, the 32 qualified teams are put into 4 pots, which are then used to compose the 8 groups, with qualifying matches, you know, ongoing. Now, what happened tonight was that Dinamo Zagreb, if they won and progressed to the group stages, would be in pot 1 and Rangers would be in pot 2. However, if Zagreb had failed to progress, then Rangers would move up into pot 1. Now, but they were playing Sparta Prague of the Czech Republic, and Sparta Prague came back to win the game. They came back to shock their Croatian opponents and smash them on the night and overcome them. That means that Rangers have moved from pot 2 to pot 1 in the Europa League. Great news indeed. It now means that we cannot be drawn against the likes of Liverpool, Roma, Bayer Leverkusen, Villarreal, or Atalanta, or even last season's Europa Conference League winners, West Ham. I know some Rangers fans have soft spots for. Now, this is the composition of the draw. And if we look at it, so you can see there, the pot 1 will contain West Ham, Liverpool, AS Roma, Ajax, Villarreal, Leverkusen, Atalanta, and Rangers. So some very strong teams in that pot 1. You know, you pick out those top names there. AS Roma, Liverpool, for example. You know, Liverpool, multiple Champions League finalists over recent years, and AS Roma, obviously Italian giants. Pot 2 contains Sporting Lisbon, Slavia Prague, Stade Rennes, Olympiacos, Betis, Lask, Marseille, who are a tough team, Karabag. I think it's a great name. Pot 3 contains Molde, Brighton, Sheriff Tiraspol, Union SG, who we beat in the Champions League last year, Freiburg, Sparta Prague, Maccabi Haifa, who tried to sign Yanis Hadji, Sturm Graz, who were knocked out of the Champions League by PSV like us. And pot 4 contains Toulouse, Ajax Athens, TSC Bakala Topola, who were knocked out of the Champions League, Servette, who we knocked out of the Champions League, Panathinaikos, Rakow Czestochowa, who are Polish, Aris Limassol, and Haken of Sweden. So that is the pots as they stand. Now, you know, realistically, Rangers obviously have made sure they will not face any of those top teams. However, they still could face a pretty nightmarish draw. You know, if you look at that and you kind of look at, you know, what is the easiest draw you could get and what is the hardest draw you could get. Well, I suppose, you know, pot 2, you're looking at perhaps Lask. Pot 3, you may take, I don't know, let's say take Mulder or Sheriff. And pot 4, you take maybe something like, I don't know, Aris to be an easy draw. You know, we could even draw Servette again, and I'm sure they'll be hell-bent on getting revenge over us. You've got a nightmare situation where we could obviously draw, you know, Real Betis or Olympiacos or Sporting, or Marseille, who will give us a very, very tough game. Pot 3, you could draw Brighton, who are a very, very good Premier League team. Pot 4, there's Toulouse, Ajax Athens, Panathinaikos, all are very strong teams. So there is still a way, I suppose, we could draw a group of death in the Europa League. Anyway, guys, let me know in the comments below what would be your ideal group and what would be your nightmare group from these 4 pots. But certainly tomorrow's draw, which takes place at 12 o'clock UK time, will be a very interesting one indeed for Rangers to find out who we've got in the Europa League. A little bit depressed that we're going into the Europa League, a little bit depressed that we're going on to that whole Sunday, Thursday thing, you know, that was published earlier, the games that will be moved as a result of this dropping down to the Europa League. You know, I think to me it's a bad thing. You know, it just means that you've got a situation where at the end of the day, you're looking at it and you're looking at, you know, playing catch up possibly. You know, a lot obviously depends on what happens this Sunday, but look, it's not great. I'd rather be in the Champions League. Look, I think the Europa League is going to be tough this year. It's going to be really, really tough this year. And I'd rather have the money of the Champions League. I really would. The ties that have been moved, obviously, now, match day 1 is the 21st of September. Match day 2 is the 5th of October. Match day 3, 26th of October. Match day 4 is the 9th of November. Match day 5 is the 30th of November. And match day 6 is the 14th of December. And as a result, obviously, all the games after that on a Saturday will be moved. So things like the Hearts game on the 28th will be moved to the 29th. So a lot of obviously Thursday, Sunday, which personally, like I said, I do not welcome at all for our club. Let me know what you think, guys, in the comments below. Anyway, let's move on. Today, it was confirmed that Glenn Kamara has finally left the club. Good news on that one. I released a video yesterday, so I'm not going to go into it in too great a depth. Leeds reported it on their website saying that it was an undisclosed fee. However, we do believe that it was somewhere in the region of 5 to 5.5 million, with promotion clauses and sell-on clauses inserted, so that if Leeds were to get promoted back to the Premier League, Rangers would benefit from that, because obviously Glenn Kamara would play a part. As you can see in that photo, Glenn has officially left. There he is, signing his contract. So it's a done deal. He has gone and will not be returning to Rangers. Obviously the first of many. Now, it shows that we've certainly generated some cash this summer. 4 million for Sakala, 2 million for Cholak, 5.5 million for Kamara. Looking at what, 11.5 million pounds there, you know, plus wages saved. It's probably a break-even transfer window for the club, which does beg the question, how ambitious are they being? There's still a need, I think, to develop further, still a need to add to that squad, certainly not in the attacking areas, although I suppose there is a debate over whether the attackers we've recruited have actually improved the quality. For me, you've got to go, and I think left side centre-back and a left back are something we need to buy now. Left side centre-back, we need a dominant leader of a centre-back. Now, at times you could say that Connor is a leader, that he's a communicator. He is, but he's not dominant. He's not a tough tackler. He's not a physical leader of men. John Suter may have a bit more the physicality, but doesn't have the communication and leadership. We do miss the Terry Butcher, Richard Goff type at the back. And I very much doubt you could obviously go and get someone like them at these days. Those players, I think, cost multi-millions. But there are players that we could easily go after. And I think, you know, there is a number of options we could look at in terms of that. Harry Suter continues to be linked with the club, brother of John. Now, I know Harry Suter is more a right-sided centre-back, but, you know, has shown in the past that he could play to that left side. And it could even, you know, open the possibility of us going to 3 at the back, which Michael Beale has spoken of on multiple occasions. Now, According to a number of reports this morning, the Harry Souttar to Rangers move is hanging in the balance thanks to Ben Davies. Now, according to reports coming out of Leicester, Harry Souttar wants to join Rangers. He has no hesitation in saying that he wants to play for Rangers. He wants to link up with his brother. He wants to play for the team he supports. However, this is all according to report and the fourth official, who obviously are a good source of information. Now, Ben Davies is reportedly not keen to leave Rangers. He wants to stay at the club, despite the fact that he has been told that he can find a new club. Harry Souttar is excited, wants to join the club, and really, wants to get involved. But Davies has, I think, really underperformed since he's come to the club. He lacks the physicality, he lacks the aerial ability to really add to this squad. But it really doesn't look like he wants to leave. Now, this could have something to do with the rumoured wages that he is on. Reportedly, he is on a high wage, which he would be unlikely to get in the English Championship. In the English Championship, the only clubs that are paying massive wages at this moment in time are those teams that have been recently relegated from the Premier League, because they have that parachute money which they can actually use. However, a number of the other clubs, can't do that. The Championship average wage is around 32,000 per week, but this is obviously been forced up by the fact that Leeds, Leicester, and Southampton do pay an awful lot of money. The actual average wage amongst the other clubs is around £7,000 per week. Even big clubs like Sunderland, for example, their highest wage earner is on £16,500 a week, which is believed to be substantially below what Ben Davies is getting at Rangers. It's said that Ben doesn't want to take a massive pay cut, that he wants to stay at the club. And if that's the case, then it'd be unlikely that Souttar comes in. So, could this intransigence of Ben Davies be costing us the ability to get a top quality defender like Harry Souttar? It certainly seems to be the case. So very, very worrying report indeed. And certainly, I think, centre back is something we do need to address. The other night, the defence looked absolutely dreadful, didn't it? 117 years old, 29 years average age. You take out John Souttar, and it's the same defence we've been playing since the 55 season. Take out, obviously, Philip Helander. We've never really replaced Helander. I know Helander was up at the club until he left this summer, but he was always out injured. We've never really replaced Helander. That is a clear fact, and we do need to replace him. We do need to go and get a strong centre half. You look at teams that are successful, teams that do well, they are built from the back. They are built on strong defensive foundations. And certainly, you go back in time with the great Rangers teams of the past who had players like Goff and Butcher, Gary Stevens, players who dominated, players who helped our defense be dominant. And we certainly don't have that now. So I think, centre back is still a position of need. Left back as well. Look, Borna Barisic had a poor game the other night. He's done well this season so far, but overall, is he really the long-term answer? No, he's not. Can we rely on Rid van Yilmaz? Probably not, because he's always out injured. So at the end of the day, I think we do need to be looking at a new left back as well. Well, guys, let me know what you think. I would love to know your thoughts, comments on that. These three guys are obviously new signings. We spent an awful lot of money this summer on securing the services of Sam Lammers, Searle, and Danilo. What are your opinions on them? At the moment, they are flattering to see. They are certainly, obviously scored less goals than Antonio Čolak had by this point in the season. Searle has missed multiple chances. Yes, I know he had those 2 assists against PSV, but 3 misses against Ross County that, thank God, didn't cost us due to the fact that we did win the game. That miss yesterday where he didn't even work the keeper, unforgivable. He's really struggled in front of goal. Sam Lammers had a good cameo yesterday, but overall has struggled. Even struggled against Green at Morton. Danilo missed that sitter against Servette. Did have the miss against PSV, which was not a sitter, but still was a miss. Has struggled to settle in and doesn't seem to be popular with Michael Beale. I struggle to understand why a player we spent so much money on and we tracked and we chased all summer is not even getting a look in. So is there something wrong with Danilo? Is there something Michael Beale is seeing in training that he doesn't like? It's certainly a worrying statistic at the moment. Kemar Roof, I think, is our best attacker at this moment in time and has, for me, to play Sunday. He is just the best finisher at the club. He looked great against You know, he looked great against Ross County. He was mobile. He caused them problems. He got in areas they didn't want him to, and he scored that fantastic goal. Ruth has to start, and if he only plays 60, 65 minutes, so be it. But for me, those three have really struggled this season, and they need to sort themselves out and find a way of breaking through. I don't think Dessers is a natural goal scorer. I don't think he'll ever be a great player for the club. I think he could be a decent player, SKS player, a foil maybe, but I don't think he's an out-and-out goal scorer. I don't think he'll score 10 to 15 this season. I really don't. Danilo needs to, I don't know, sort his confidence out. Michael Beale needs to take a risk on him. And Sam Lammers, do we know where his best position is yet? And are these players suffering because the team lacks vision, lacks style, lacks a shape, lacks tactics? Could well be. But it certainly is an interesting one how these three have not yet gelled, or these three have not yet come and helped out Rangers and helped us to succeed. Well, guys, obviously it all builds up tomorrow to that Europa League draw. We look forward to finding out who Rangers have got in the Europa League. Obviously, we'll keep all across it here on Glasgow Rangers Nation. As always, guys, please hit the sub, ring the notification bell. And as always, I need you to do two things for me. Number one, smash that like. And number two, remember always, we are...